Hello, everyone. Good morning, almost afternoon. Ready for lunch? I promise we will make the session interesting for you. Before we start, I thought maybe it'd be a good idea if each one of you could give us a brief intro, tell us who you are, what company you're with, and what you guys are doing for leveraging open technology and AI and all the great stuff we keep hearing about. So why don't we start with you?
Great. I'm Marcus Müller. My background is actually hospitality, and I've been in the technology space for the last 3 years. I'm the co-founder of Garvendi, and what we do is we're a sales and distribution platform, have completely redefined with a new data logic how inventory is managed, which enables operators to sell hyper-personalized experiences up to the individual characteristic of each room, but also puts a new dimension on revenue management and also introduces new automation which don't exist today. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Gianna. My name is Chinmay. I'm with RateGain, based out of Americas, hotelier at heart, but been on the dark side of travel technology for the last 5 years. Very happy to be here. Also have the opportunity to be on the HEDNA board, so thanks everyone for being here. I think it's a really interesting topic, and I think we'll be able to expand a little bit more on how we are using some of these technologies. RateGain is into travel tech. Everything we do is within travel, and we've got 3 broad verticals: data services, pricing intelligence, distribution connectivity, and then MarTech or ad tech. And everything that we do includes a whole lot of data, both from B2C and B2B points, and we've started to finally use them in a way that we feel it gives us an edge. So looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you. Guy?
Gianna. HEDNA. Good morning. My first time at a HEDNA event, unbelievably, after all these years
really?
Within the industry. Forgive me, I'm 3 months into Sabre, 18 years previously with Ideas, so if I flip-flop between Ideas and Sabre, give me that one. With Sabre, we're very much with a vision to empower hotels. We're looking to deliver the leading e-commerce and distribution platform. So we're extending our reach. And one of my jobs coming into this role is to be able to talk more about what we're doing on an innovation side. And I don't believe we've done enough of that over recent years. I mean, you'll know that we've got more than 40,000 hotels. 40% of the hotel brands around the world use our solutions. But what are we doing in terms of innovation? So like Chinmay, like Mark, is very excited to be able to talk around this topic. For us, it's very much around helping hoteliers to go beyond. And so, using AI, machine learning, all the extensions around that, and focusing on guest experience, on top of driving a better revenue from more transactions for the hotels is clear and fundamental. And maybe if I could just comment on the first use case, which some similarities in terms of Marcus presents his business. But for us at Sabre, we're very much focusing on around attributes being disconnected from rooms, and that's been a huge growth revenue opportunity. And so, as we speak to AI and machine learning, one of the things that we've been developing is to be able to provide a recommendations engine. So when I've disconnected the attributes and I make offerings available, when I can be as free as I wish to as a hotelier with all my offerings, how do we determine what we offer to truly satisfy the guest as well as drive a conversion and drive a greater revenue from it? And so the recommendations engine, using machine learning, allows the display of offers that might be converted, giving preference to obviously those that got the highest conversion rate and give us the greatest attachment to that sale. So that's really core to how we're using that with our new Synexus Retail Studio, and we see that as a huge driver revenue, and as I say, AI machine learning fundamental to that. And the use case really would be around an initial reservation where we sell a bedroom and have the opportunity to add an ancillary or an attribute sale, and that can be a service, it can be an experience, it can be another amenity, or indeed with us post-reservation. So I can make that booking for an experience back in the booking engine without having to make a bedroom sale. So those are some examples in terms of how we've started to approach adopting AI machine learning in terms of a new generation to drive revenue growth.
Thank you. Just a couple of things I wanted to say from a housekeeping perspective. You can ask questions in the app, so if you have any specific questions that you want for us to address, please use the app to ask those questions. I want to take a moment to also leverage a little bit about the outcome of some of the discussions of the previous session. I think it was super interesting to hear from Alex's perspective and from Paul's perspective their thoughts around collaboration, one. I think that's super important as we think about all the exciting things that are happening with technology in our space. And I would take it from a little bit of a different perspective to say the folks in the room that are responsible for all those spreadsheets that you have to manage on a daily basis, I think it's time to be more open about how you operate, to be more open about those challenges with each other and also with the technology partners in the room so that we can help them help us create the technologies that are going to help facilitate the benefit of the technology that's in the space today. We all know about the use cases that are helping our digital teams with brand.com. We also hear about how the technology is helping our OTA partners. We just heard how they're also helping our B2B partners. And so that's all great news, but it would be even more fantastic to be able to say that we are using that same technology to help us be more efficient and drive more of the content that these folks need to be able to help us bring more heads to beds. Having said that, I also thought it was very interesting to hear them say how Alex's comment around, you probably have to look at your sales force and go look at how you segmented group, MICE, business, corporate travel, and all of the focus and the resources around how they engage those consumers, and maybe think sort of the same way, how do we handle distribution today? Is it time for us to kind of take a step back and review how we do business and look at how we can reform, reinvent ourselves? And with that thought process, I'd like to ask you, Mark, I think that in your company, you guys came up with some really thoughtful ways of overcoming the challenges that we've been discussing here for years now from the perspective of how do we implement attribute-based selling, right?
Yeah. Well, I think what you say is obviously the new technology helps a lot, and there's many applications how we use AI, right? Machine learning, we have a prediction model for selling. We do have UC language models for summarizing a huge amount of content and then assigning it to data points. We're doing reinforcement models to say, we want to have, this is a result we want to achieve, please tell us how we can achieve it and learn, to improve ways. So there's multiple different examples of doing this. But it all comes down to what data points do we have in the first place. And if we use a language today, I think the core problem is, from an hotel operator perspective, right? I want to have control of my distribution. I want to have a good distribution mix and everything. So if I'm bound to the way we manage inventory today, that creates a lot of problems. We need to almost redefine a language and new data points to have this smart models. So when you just say, when you have a simplified way, let's say, give me this room category example, right? So if you have a room category and you have 100 rooms associated with this room, then this already creates a problem because every room might be different. You want to do different things with it. There's different things. So that is basically the challenge. We don't have a data point we can apply this to, right? We don't know actually how should we describe an experience is the first thing. We all used to buy room types and then surprised, I actually didn't expect this. I wanted to have this, I wanted to have that. And even the consumer doesn't know. How do you describe an experience? It's all about storytelling, it's all in our head. And it's very difficult to leverage all this different data if you don't have a structure where you can put it back to.
Yeah, so I think that's super important. And again, I want to stress that and emphasize that so much with everyone in the room, just how important I think it's going to be for us to just be willing to be transformative in our thought process and the way that we actually handle our business today and how we operationalize it. I know that one of the sessions yesterday, we were talking about content and Specifically, we were talking about sustainability, and we had climate trade in the room. And thank you very much for all the great insights that you shared with us. This is now, right? Like what you shared with us, what customers are looking for, what they are actually aspiring to find when they are traveling and when they're looking to select a hotel. It's the kind of content that they're expecting to find in their search and in their shopping and in their booking. And so I think, again, we need to be thinking in this room now, not 5 years from today, how am I going to get this content readily available? And so I think today more than ever, I hope I speak for the hoteliers in the room, we have to leverage our technology partners to help us do that, right? We need to be able to understand what's in your product plans, what are you thinking about? Maybe it's not in your product plan and you need to develop it. You know, is it time to come back to rooms and kind of, you know, collaborate and do that kind of exercise? And Chinmay, I know that you guys have done some things sort of in the middle, right, to help us with onward distribution. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so like we were discussing pre-panel, I think we have a couple of use cases where we find the open technology very useful. I think a couple of areas, I won't get into the pull versus push discussion on what's better or what's not better, but one benefit that we provide to all our partners is a sophisticated layer of caching in between the demand and the supply partners. Because in a lot of cases without us, you know, the CRSs will not be able to take the load of all the shopping that's going on. And we've been working on converting our so-called lazy cache to smart cache. And the only way to do that is by using a lot of data and some machine learning elements to look at the shopping patterns that are coming in from all partners. It could be meta search, it could be wholesalers, bed banks, OTAs, etc. And our two key metrics are unit cache utilization and accuracy. And how can you improve that without putting more load on the CRSs? So I think we found that using some of these new technologies, it's made it a lot easier because of the volume of data that we kind of handle. One more example that I can talk about is more in our pricing intelligence area, but we provide a lot of data points to OTAs, to hotel chains on pricing intelligence, also to revenue management systems. And thanks to our distribution vertical, we have a lot of intelligence in our system on a forward-looking basis on what's happening with chains in terms of rates going up or down, discount rates closing, etc. And we anonymize that data and we treat them as hints to point to our rate shopping engine to say, you know, third week of September, something is going on in Upper East Side of Manhattan, so you should be focused here from a pricing intelligence perspective. So that's just an example of how we kind of combine two product lines to create something which is unique, but at the same time use a lot of AI. Because without that, it's very hard for anybody to make sense of that. So these are just some examples of how we're finding it useful. One pain point that we've been discussing, even at the Aetna board, is our love and hate of Excel spreadsheets. So even for things like property onboarding, etc., I think it just, coming back to your earlier point about, you know, how can supply, demand, and technology providers work together to make life easier. I think that's one thing where we need the focus and attention from all sides. So some of the leading OTAs are developing these onboarding APIs, which technically should make it super easy for properties, and especially chains which have thousands of hotels, to just automatically create shells and switch it on, and so that we get rid of the supply, the spreadsheets. And as technology partners, we can only do so much. So unless it becomes our top priority on both sides, we would love to work on it. So these are just some examples where I think the whole ecosystem needs to work together to make things better.
And so, Guy, you talked a little bit about, I guess, the analytics piece of it and just bringing the information back and being able to serve up differently to the consumer. And I think that's interesting. I also find it interesting to if I think about, again, the comment from the previous session from, I think it was Paul, where he shared that they get a lot of data, right? They do get a lot of data, and I think, again, I think I speak for the hoteliers in the room. We'd love to have that data, right? So how do we get that data in a consumable manner to the folks that are, working in distribution, that have, they have KPIs that are, around performance of not just booking performance, but connectivity performance and all these other processes that really help drive the operations of their business. Is there anything more you can share with us around, what the thought process is behind, or maybe leveraging some of the stuff you've done with the airlines? I'm not sure, what's the thought process behind how that gets put together?
And there's all sorts of things that are coming out from this great conversation, because I'd love just to go back and reconfirm and reiterate, everything we've got to be doing is about providing an outcome. And what's that outcome going to be? We should be looking to be providing personalized experiences. This is what our guests, this is what the consumers are after. They want tailor-made packages. They want to think that they are being offered something that is personal to them. So there's got to be an outcome. And for us as hoteliers as well, that outcome has ultimately got to be delivering a revenue uplift. Revenue uplift, drop in the margin, increase in profit. So it's paramount that we're looking to take steps forward. And I think over my decades with the industry, what I get frustrated around is the speed with which we're able to move. We talk about data, we talk about data integrity, we talk about integrations, API first. Some of this stuff is moving, but we need to have a massive swell and shift forward to delivering outcomes. I really think about removing friction as well. And with Leonard earlier and Planet on stage, Leonard speaks very passionately about the guest experience, removing friction, and that's going to be providing a value, consumer, guest, hotel, owner, period. So everything that we're doing around AI, machine learning, ChatGPT should lead us in that direction there. To speak specifically to the comments around other things that we've been thinking of doing, again, removing friction, helping consumers to fulfill their booking requirements. So within the travel services part of our business, we've been working with Google, who we've signed a 10-year partnership with as an innovative partner to help us with some developments to solve two specific use cases. So, when a consumer is making a booking with air travel, they're being displayed at a hotel, they can't find the hotel, it's not available. So what are we doing in terms of providing an alternative offering that's going to suit their needs? Rather than just a typical return display, making sure that we're putting on characteristics that mean that the offering as an alternative is going to be at least viable. What does that mean? Satisfaction for the consumer, converted booking, again, revenue driving for all concerned. Second use case would be around where we've got an air segment, but there's no hotel segment attached. If we can again identify, and then we can work around some of our machine working there, to be able to, again, come up with hotels that are going to be suitable to complete the full segmentation. Those can be then delivered back via a travel agent or the airline, driving more revenue, completing the package. And the more that we come back to, and Marcus has reconfirmed this methodology around reconfirmation, if we're actually observing, we're putting an offer out, observing that it is being transacted upon, it's been converted, we know that we're segmenting in the right way, we're offering the right way, and we can repeat, we can refine, we can get better, which means, again, more satisfaction, more conversion of guests, more revenue uptake.
I hope you're right, because, being in this business, like many of you, for so long, we've, in our experience, we've always dealt with waiting for developers to develop, right? And I think those days are kind of behind us, right? Now development happens in sprints of 3 months, 6 months, and the whole world changes. So hopefully that transformation will also seep through in our onward distribution environment. We'll be able to see that. But
that is through partnership, though.
That's the partnership.
Hoteliers.
Yep.
Instructing, directing, collaborating with the vendor partners to be able to deliver, and then we can prioritize in the right way.
Yes.
And then we're all successful within that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And there is a question from the audience, and I think it's really relevant, and I'd like to sort of hear what you guys think about this. But do you think there's all this conversation around, customer-centric distribution, right? Personalized, not for a persona, but actually a person. Like, do you think that really is something that we could achieve from your experience so far?
Well, I mean, I think not sure, yes and no, I would say. One of the big barriers, I think, is we talk about open APIs, we talk about API first and stuff like this, but the practice is, the reality is it's not. So some open APIs, but that as a startup, I understand, I know I cannot just connect to anybody. I have to build a partnership. I have to have a commercial agreement and stuff like this, and that holds people back to deliver, holds us back to deliver this customized or personalized experience. And the other thing is I think we're pretty bad in understanding context when we book travel. I mean, we put everything, distribution in one place. I mean, if I'm booking a holiday, annual holiday, or if I'm booking a routine trip, it's very different. My buying purchase behavior is very different. And I think that adds to the complexity. What does it mean, personalized offer, right? So if I'm a routine trip, I just want to, like usual, just give me that stuff what I always have. But if I do my annual vacation, right, I want to have, I'm spending weeks to make a decision, right? It's basically what's the best place, and I'm looking at all the details. And I think new technology can help us to make the decision a lot shorter. But again, I think the barriers for that is the APIs and to see how can we leverage and connect different technologies and data points together. So I think that will be my take on it.
Very good. Any additional thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I completely agree that I think technology can be used for personalization of content as well as pricing. I don't agree that we've reached that personalized pricing concept yet. I think we're moving in that direction, but definitely content is still behind. And I think what I've seen is anybody who's been doing it in a good way are usually the demand partners, and especially the OTAs, because the advantage they have is, first of all, they're better on tech, and then the users that they have, they're shopping different type of products on their site. So even if a hotel chain wants to do this, their audiences are somewhat limited because they're interested only in that particular brand, whereas the OTAs have the advantage that user might be interested in air, car, hotel, and different hotels as well. So when you have those extra data points, you can actually customize it better and merchandise it better. So if you are logged in an OTA shopping session, what you see even in terms of sort and what products are being merchandised, it's very different than what the other experience. So I think it's moving pretty fast.
Any other?
I mean, it becomes an echo chamber if I'm not careful, but we're working towards tailor-made packaging. I think you pick up on the characteristics of different types of booking requests. That enables you to return types of offerings that would make sense. And again, based on history, the confirmation that you've seen from previous transactions that have been made, this should be the tailored package for that type of person. It's not going to come down to the individual level anywhere near soon for me. But to being able to provide a package that makes sense based on the components that are put together is certainly there.
So a couple other questions that I have prepared. Let me just get back on here. I did hear a comment, or I read a comment, and I've heard a couple of these comments in preoccupation, and people are just kind of worried. Should I be worried about my job? Is AI going to replace me? And someone said, and in a Focus Wire interview that I saw recently, that AI is not going to replace people, but certainly it's going to replace people that get informed and get educated on AI will replace the ones that don't. That's sort of the perspective and the answer. What are your thoughts around that? What do we need to do as a industry with such a specialty, set of skills, right? That is inclusive in the distribution world that all of us in the room know, probably we're the only ones that know what that specialty looks like and all the different pieces of data that you need to know and operationally and technology and functionality and just how the commercials work. You need to wear many hats in order to do effective distribution, basically, onward distribution, and rely a lot on our distribution partners, technology, and partners alike. So how should we be thinking about that? How should we be thinking about our roles today? Any thoughts around that as it relates to AI?
Well, I like to think about it as a great tool. It's kind of like, at the old days where we didn't invent the bike. I had to walk from one place to another. And now I have a bike, I'm much faster. Now I have a car, I'm even faster, and so on. So I think it's a great tool. It makes us more efficient. So the jobs will certainly change. That's for sure. We can use it and leverage in a different way. I'm not sure if you replace it, that's a different story. But I think that's all great. I mean, there's a different topic about the ethics, different conversation. But in general, it helps our job to make much easier, just only from my own perspective, right? So onboarding of hotels becomes a lot easier. Summarizing a lot of content is a lot faster. And all this kind of stuff is great, which makes our job a lot more effective or efficient, I would say.
Yes.
I just have two thoughts. I mean, I agree with that sentiment and that question. I think a lot of the mundane tasks are obviously going to go away. So in the hotel context, a lot of back-end work in terms of rate loading, rate maintenance, even contact centers, et cetera. So unless you're a virtuoso or you're selling a very complex product, which is $1,500 a reservation, I think simpler things will definitely go away. What that means is that hotel companies or any company can actually utilize their energy and time on improving something else which is more relevant. So that trend is definitely happening. The other thing, the point that you made about folks with AI replacing folks who don't use AI, I would take it to the next level, that companies who use AI will actually eat up the companies that don't use AI, because it's very similar to the advent of automated revenue management systems, let's say 15 years ago. And if you're in a comp set of 5 hotels and 1 or 2 hotels are using automated systems and you're not, you're definitely losing market share. I see it in a very similar way. If you're using it in the right way, obviously there are some risks and there's a lot of debate going on gloom and doom. But if you use it in the right way, I think it definitely gives you a competitive edge. And I think the most important thing is that it gives you the chance to focus on things which are really important. So if you're a hotel company, why don't you focus on the guest experience, as an example?
So I think that a significant part of this for me is the opportunity to do stuff quickly. We have masses of data. How can we get to an outcome quicker and more optimally? So that's the fundamental why it sits very nicely within revenue optimization and that side of the business. And I think that the opportunity that we've taken with Sabre, in fact we've run a process again, I think in the last few days, to help hotels where they've got rates that are configured incorrectly for whatever reason, and fundamentally it's down to human input that's caused that. But how do we then overcome it to then make the rates available for sale as they should be? And so by running those automated processes by the rules that we've set and the learning that can be taken from it, we're not only able to resolve, which means that we are now making rooms available for sale that weren't. We're now driving far more transactions, i.e. revenue for the hotels, transactions for us as well, revenue for us as a business. But then we can put new guardrails in place to ensure that we minimize that happening again. So we're leading to an efficiency there. I think fundamentally we're going to be at a point where, because we're looking to optimize, we're looking to make the best use of manpower and resources, there will be savings on the people side of the business, but it doesn't mean we have to lose the people. We can restructure, we can use skills in other ways. But what we're able to capture here is the opportunity to do things far better and far quicker, far more optimally, which leads us all to have better revenue opportunities.
I love that. And I hear this, and I don't know how many of you participated in the several sessions yesterday, but there was the connectivity session that I thought was super interesting. First of all, it was very engaging. There were a lot of people there. Thank you, April, for facilitating that. But I also saw an opportunity, right, where here we have years of experience in a room, and we're trying to solve for things that are very rudimentary, you know, in the way that we operate and we do business. And so we stand here today talking about technology, talking about how far along it's come along, AI, machine learning, robotics, all this great stuff. We have to start applying it to our daily basis. Like, we just have to. And I think the onus is on us, everybody in this room. I think the hoteliers in the room need to be more open. You need to be able to collaborate. You need to be able to draw on a board, say, this is my pain point, help me fix it. It may not be sexy, because distribution folks, outside of what all the nice things we talked about, experience and offering and the consumer and seeing the beautiful pictures, that's really nice, but none of that happens if you don't get the back end of it right? And it's not going to be efficient if we don't stop using these spreadsheets. And so this is more of a call out to the audience here in the room to go back to your offices, think through how do you collaborate with your fellow colleagues, even in your own companies, to understand what's happening on the pricing side. What challenges are you guys enduring? What things can we work on more, differently? And then come together to the table with your technology partners to have those discussions, right? It's a beautiful thing to hear the outcome of maybe what wholesalers, the relationship that we had with wholesalers 10 years ago is very different than the relationship we have with the wholesalers today, where you identify strategic partners and you're able to work through tactical things to help you advance to a win-win situation, well, win-win-win, right? So I think we could learn from that. We can apply those things. I would love to, before I retire, before I leave this world, I would love to live in a world where we have hotel distribution be something that is effective, that it's nimble, that is able to address the needs of the consumer more adequately and not through all these manual processes. I hope that's a sentiment that's shared in the room. And it's not just me being passionate, like Alex told me earlier. He says, Gianna, you're very passionate. I am. I am about distribution. I think this is great stuff. I think this is a great opportunity to kind of take us to the next level and really transform and reform how we do business. So I know that we are coming close to an end. I don't know if there's any more questions from the audience, but I certainly would love to have an opportunity to give to you guys for any closing remarks of any thoughts that you want the audience to leave with in terms of how do they think about your companies or what you're doing or how they can help continue in this collaboration and in this discussion.
Well, ultimately, it's a change management process, right? Yes. And that is always very painful. And if you look from an hotel perspective, we got to think through the entire operational cycle as well. It's not good to offer personalization at the front end and just cannot fulfill it at the back end. I mean, this is kind of a salesperson sells the world, and then the operation shouts at him and saying, "What have you done?" So we got to think about holistic, and I think and drive the change management process, take the fear away. And I guess it's all more about technology stack solutions nowadays, not just one single solution.
Yes.
I think that time is over. I think we have to think holistically about what kind of solutions do we provide to operators.
Yeah, I would echo the same thoughts. I think forums like HEDNA are awesome actually for supply, demand, and intermediaries and connectivity companies to come together. I think it's all a matter of prioritization. My request to the demand partners would be that you're focused on the end consumer is very acute. Maybe look a little bit towards hotel partners as well, where technology might not be their strength, and then leverage technology companies like ourselves to make things happen, because eventually it'll help your conversion as well.
And I'd like to repeat, come on the journey with us, hoteliers and vendors together. Push vendors for solutions that will provide the right outcomes for you and for your guests. I think we've got this great opportunity to embrace the technology that is going to open up more revenue streams, and also provide the means to give better guest experience and greater operational efficiencies, all of it leading to drive a better profit. I do get concerned with some of the, which we won't have time to get to, you know, the draws to the left and to the right, with, you know, focusing on data sets when it comes to using AI. And, you know, if you ask the wrong question, you're going to get an answer that goes left field, and my God, you've created an issue rather than a solution. And being in a situation where, you know, we've got the early drivers of sampling ChatGPT to engage with guests, booking experiences, you know, make sure that we don't put friction in the way, again, of the solution and of the right outcome. I don't want to be in a position where, you know, I've had with my bank, you know, you put your credit card number in to go down a different route, you click 1, click 2, click 3, and then you end up speaking to someone who says, can you give me your credit card number? Can you tell me what you want? Reduce the friction, give the best experience, and we'll profit together. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think that's all the time we have. I hope that you guys found this information insightful. I hope that you'll go home thinking about what we talked about here, and I hope that you will all connect with each other to continue this conversation and solve some of the challenges that we have in our operations with onward distribution. So thank you very much, and I'll see you at lunch.
Cool.